All right, welcome back to another episode of the Fabric of America podcast. I'm Melissa Otto, owner of Demelis Atelier.
And I'm Matt Bandiver, owner of Bards.
All right, it's outfit time, my friend.
Yes, so what are you
I am the
wearing?
loud outfit, so I get to go first today. So
we are kind of matching. Like,
we're kind of coordinated. We do the things. I didn't even realize. I'll start on the top with this because that is very satisfying to you.
It is the top of the list.
It is. Okay, so I'm wearing a very cool knit, like almost a seemingly racerback style rib knit shirt made by Bards. When Bards used to do knitwear.
Oh, back when we were cool.
The fact that they don't do knitwear anymore is very upsetting.
It is.
Maybe one day.
Yes. Shame me.
Dreams down the line. I will shame you.
In front of our listener.
I will shame you because this top is awesome. You know, I've made Instagram posts about my knitwear from you. You can just tell the quality. It's made like in a very cool continuous knit setting, so it's not all seamed, which is pretty cool. So if anyone knows anything at all about knits, that's a very special factor, as opposed to a cut and sew knit where you lay down the fabric and you cut it and things can go wrong. It's just a better quality product. So I can attest to that. It also washes really well. And I've even texted you and been like, hey, tell me about this material because it's not all pilly when you get those little bumps and lumps on your knits and stuff after you wash it, or any fabric.
Thank you very much.
All right, and so my pants are very floral and loud, and they're from Alice & Olivia, which is my favorite pant company. I'm sure as we get to keep doing outfits, I will be like, Alice & Olivia, Alice & Olivia, Alice & Olivia. But they're the wide leg. They're not the Dylan pant. They're a different variety, but I have a fun story about this pant because many years ago, I'm going to say at least probably 8 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I had seen these pants because a friend of mine who used to work with me at DKNY then went on to work for Alice & Olivia. And I was just like keeping eyes on him, and I saw these ridiculous, like big wide ass pants. And I'm like, woof, those pants are so obnoxious. I feel like I need them. And I called him up and they didn't have any more in the store in my size. And he told me they ran small. And so I went on, I think, Saks, and I found them and I bought them. And they were like, I don't know, $500 and something. Well, at the time, this is like, as a person who's like a Marshall shopper, right? This was a big spend for me. So I bought them, I got them, I tried them on, they were awesome. And I had total regret about spending the money. So I actually sent them back. I returned them and I got my money back.
You're a better person than I am.
Well, I waited and I was victorious. I feel like patience was really my ally in this one because a few years later, so it must have been like 8 years later, because then when I started the business, I had a mom come in with a very cool dress in a print that kind of reminded me of these pants. And it did a little trigger in my brain. And I'm like, I wonder if I can find those things. So I found them on Poshmark. I think I got them for like, I don't know, $100 and something. I knew my size already. I knew they were going to be amazing. They actually had the hem was coming down. So I was able to like kind of negotiate on the price a little bit because I had to fix them up, which I can do. So great.
You're like, I'll find a seamstress.
Yeah. Oh, this is going to cost me so much money.
Yeah.
And they sent them to me. And this is my sweet, I call them my sweet victory pants.
They look like sweet victory.
They feel like sweet victory. And I wear them all the time. And I don't think there's ever been a time when I've worn them that someone hasn't stopped me and said something nice about my pants. So.
Yeah. It's a great material, great, like just flow.
Right. They're very cool. They're kind of like, almost like a satin finished cotton type style. And of course, my shoes are from Amazon just to really balance it out.
And that's it for today. We're going to end this podcast.
Flip the table, walk away.
Oh my God.
But because we've talked about value and products like that, so I bought these shoes because I wanted kind of a fun, loud shoe. I actually had a yellow shoe prior that crapped the bed. And so I found these and I've had them for many years now. So my cost per wear is very low and I do keep them in the cycle, and I would probably like resole them or fix them up because they're so absurd. And yeah, and
that's sustainability, is getting use and wear out of it. It's not just about buying something new that checks all these boxes.
Or super expensive necessarily.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's going to be a common theme.
Right. All right. But now let's talk about your outfit.
Yes, enough about you.
Rude. Okay.
I'm only halfway through my coffee. So my outfit is it's giving the nanny from The Parent Trap. I feel
Wow. Matt is wearing like an ivory colored jean and like a chambray denim shirt.
But every time I wear this denim shirt, I always try to like layer it. And somebody said it once that it looks like the nanny from The Parent Trap. And I cannot.
You can't unsee it now.
No, I can't.
You can't unsee it. Now I'll never unsee it. Thanks for that.
I love it because that lady was like the best part of the movie. So
true.
The best part. The best part. So yeah, so this is a chambray denim made by me. I did a snap down front because I wanted it to be used as both a shirt and also like a layering piece. Just because one of the reasons I got into tailored clothing is because I don't want to say I hate my body or hated my body, but when I got into clothing, it was at Express, which is all about like graphic tees and like, you know, they're extra large as like a child's medium.
Yeah. They were very slim at the time.
Yeah. And so when I put it on, it was like saran wrapping meatloaf. It was just not good. And so I was like, I need another layer to hide it all. So
another visual I'll never get out of my head. Thanks.
So that's why I started to wear suits at Express. That was the reason, because I did not feel comfortable. And I was like, I need a layer on top of this. So I started to wear like a vest over a graphic tee. And then I was like, well, if I've got the vest, I should get the matching pants. And then I should get the jacket. And I started to
armoring up a little bit, huh?
And then by the end, when I had like a whole suit, that's when everybody was like, excuse me, you're the manager? And I was like, oh, wait, this is much better. So that set me down a path I never would return from. T-shirt is from a boutique store. I've probably had it for 6 years now. I have like tiers of T-shirts.
So does my husband.
Yeah.
We have level 1 and level 2, a couple level 3s.
Yeah. My level 3 are like our Kentucky shirts.
Yes, literally. Yep. His gym and paint shirts. Yep, that's exactly. So funny.
Then level 2 are kind of, they fit well, but they maybe what's on them, it's not something that I would wear with every outfit. Like it might be a Batman shirt.
Yeah.
Like I like it.
Like he'll wear it, but maybe not outside of the house. Depends.
Exactly, yeah.
Depends on which shirt it is.
And
the quality's still decent on level 2.
Yeah. And then top tier, I actually hang next to my dress shirts.
Okay.
So that way there's no creases from getting the folds. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I've got hangers with like the velvet. So this is in that tier.
Okay.
Love it.
It's a level 1.
Yes. And then these pants I'm very excited about. I've been following this company for over a year now. It's called Trinidad 3. Yep. And it's a veteran-owned jean company. Everything is made in LA.
I was just going to say, they're California-based, right?
Yep. Everything's made in LA.
Very cool.
They have a couple different types of jeans. They have some that are made with imported materials, which is what this is. And then they also have their jean that they're pushing hard now, which I can't wait to get, which is all made in America, like the cotton, everything. It's made by Vivaldi Mills down in North Carolina, I believe. And it's like a true hefty,
like no stretch, that kind, like you don't wash them denim.
Right, yeah. They outfit all the guys on like the Mayans shows, and they did some for Sons of Anarchy. Gotcha. And like
that's cool.
Biker jeans. Yeah. Like you're supposed to not supposed to. You could fall while riding a motorcycle and be fine. Like it's a serious jean. Okay. You know, and he was
like Kevlar.
Yeah, he was like, I wanted to just get back to it. He's like, why are we so obsessed with making jeans stretchier and stretchier and stretchier? He's like, let's get back to what jeans were like meant to be.
Well, you mean you don't want denim that's really just sweatpants with a screen print of denim on?
Yeah, let's get back to jeggings. Yeah, where they like screen print the fly
good
on.
Lord, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, I mean, that's why jeans have those like metal rivets, and because the material was so tough to hold together that they had to put a metal clasp to hold the fabric.
That's insane. I never thought about that, but that makes total sense.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
That's why that metal rivet is there, because you couldn't stitch it to hold it together. They just clasped together.
Stamped it with
steel. They had to like weld metal together to hold this together, because it was made for guys like looking for gold and like blowing up caves and manifest destiny. And it's like, why are we getting back to this denim that's like super stretchy? So I'm glad I have a pair of stretch, but I cannot wait for the next.
And they do women's too, right? Because I'm going to be looking this up.
A couple basic women's. Yep.
Okay. We're going to be trying it out. I'll let you know.
So today I've been excited to talk about this because I feel like this is like taking people to Narnia. It's like a whole different world.
That's fair. That's a fair comparison.
It's a whole different concept, but we all know what retail is. We know what shopping is, but then when you hear about this back end, it's blows the back of your head off. It's just craziness. So today we're going to talk about markets.
Yes, we are.
Oh my gosh. Now, how many markets have you been to?
I couldn't even tell you. I think one of my first markets, if I remember, so it was the one that blew my mind, was when I worked for a company down in Essex, small like mom and pop shop. And he had men's and a small collection of women's, and myself and another gal were helping out with like what to select for the ladies, little older demographic. And we went to New York to the trade shows. I can't remember which one it was, to be fully honest with you, but it was at the Javits. And walking into that hall.
Yeah. I went to the same one.
Massive. Booth after booth after booth after booth of women's wear. And it was big companies, small companies from everywhere. It was insane. And they had everything: blouses, skirts, accessories, just in like overwhelming amounts of stuff, right? And we didn't go with like necessarily a shopping list, but we had ideas, and our clientele were like a little bit more on that like preppy New England kind of vibe, like thinking like Lily Pulitzer or like polished, clean, elevated, definitely a higher like middle market price point. We weren't in like full blown luxury, although like we could carry a piece or two like that.
Better than a Vineyard Vines?
Right around there for the majority of the product. Gotcha. Couple like one-off pieces might be a little bit more high-end and expensive. And going through there and just actually getting to select what we thought our client wanted to see, and also giving feedback to the, labels that maybe we already carried about what was working, what wasn't working, how the prices were, fabrications, everything, colors, delivery times, was insane. Like nothing made me feel more like grown up, a part of business, because prior to that, and I think you were the same way, I worked in like mass retail. So
things just showed up.
Just showed up. So you don't know where, someone like at the headquarters designed this, and it was a little bit, more abstract. This was like you're going and seeing the person that is going to like either make it right there in their area, and then like box and ship it over to you based on what you want. It was crazy. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Well, for the listener, let's back up a bit. What a market is, what trade shows are. They're buying events for retailers. So a retailer will go to a market, aka a trade show. They happen all across the world, essentially, but they happen on specific weekends in specific cities, and depending on what your store sells, you go to specific ones. Yep. So in New York, per se, you're mentioning the Javits. That's one of about 7 different trade shows happening that weekend.
Right. Alone.
Right. So depending on what your store is, you pick and choose which trade show you're going to go to. Now, some are very small. So like some are like the one I go to recently is the CTDA. So it's the Custom Tailors and Designers Association. Now that is just like fabric houses and manufacturers. It's more about like camaraderie.
I was just going to say, like, what'll really blow the listener's mind is then there's trade shows for the tradespeople, because then there's where you're getting your fabrics from, where you're getting your knits from, all that top level sourcing, which has its own level of trade shows.
Yeah, so it is wild because when you walk into a boutique, you see all these racks and all these things, and sometimes maybe you ask, oh, do you have this in another size? And maybe they do, maybe they don't, maybe they can't order it. Maybe it's something left over from a couple seasons ago that they don't work with that brand anymore. So it's just a one-off. That's how you get boutiques. Sometimes you have these like insane sales where it's like 80% off because they're just trying to make room.
They're clearing inventory.
Because there's no end of season, I'm going to ship this dead product back to the home office.
Or to an outlet or somewhere.
There's none of that. So whatever a retailer buys, and for the listener, a retailer is a store. So a store, a family-owned shop, even like think of something like mid-level, like even Mitchell's, which is $100 million store down in Westport. They go to trade shows. They go to these markets. But they have people, they're so big that they have people who work for that company who are just buyers. Right. Like that is their sole purpose in life, is to go to these trade shows and buy product. So when you walk into a store, you'll see shirts and pants and shoes and tops. All of those were chosen by the store, by the retailer. They go to this trade show and they'll walk down these aisles, as you said, like with thousands. It's insane. Every little booth is a different brand. And then you've got brands from mom and pop sock brands to like Polo and Ralph Lauren and Hugo Boss. Like they're all there. And you choose who you want to be in a part of your collection. So in retail, your seasonal offerings are called your collection. So when you go, you have to go with intention of what's it all going to look like. You can't just walk around and say like, well, I like that and I like that and I like that. It's like, okay, well, we have a lot of
You can get out of your budget real quick too that way.
Absolutely.
So everything is very well planned out.
It's
usually
wild.
to the penny, right?
Yeah.
Of what your spend is going to be.
Yep. And you look at what sizes you sold a lot last year. You look at what colors you sold, what styles you sold. It's a very in-depth research into your own reports,
market, right?
And like who's buying what do you see trending, what is a consistent sell. So so to answer your question before all this is my first market. I started working at a boutique in October. Okay. And so it was going into holiday season, ramping up. And I was just getting a feel for it because I had just come from Joseph A. Bank and Express just filed for bankruptcy.
I know.
Happy Earth Day to all of us.
Oh my God.
Yes. So and like we said, a box just arrives. You sell what's in the box. After a couple weeks, if you don't sell it, you ship it back. Yep. Here, I kept trying to understand. I was like, can we order it? Can we not? And my boss was like, well, kind of. I don't know. Let me check. I got to check with. Sometimes it's online. Sometimes it's
counts.
It was wild. I was like, this is insane. And I was like, why are there so many like one-off things? And he was like, what's left over from past seasons? I was like, what do you mean? Yeah. I was like trying to grasp this whole concept. So sometimes you walk into a store and there's one piece and it's amazing and they can't get any more and it's only a size large and it's whatever. That's because it's left over from last season's, but the reason it won't sell and the reason it's still there is because it's now out of place from the collection it was originally brought in from. Correct. So it sticks out so much more than the rest of it.
Like when you see the one coral like shirt lingering because it made it through the summer and now you're in winter and everything's gray and black and you're like, what the hell is this random?
Like that's how
great
it works.
Ass piece.
And then the retailer is stuck with that cost.
Correct.
The retailer has to pay for this product. There's no...
They've already paid actually for it, and they're looking to make back their money, so that money's kind of sitting in a weird limbo, and they can't, open up more dollars to buy more things if they have too much product sitting because they made maybe poor buying decisions.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest pitfalls and risks that a retailer, brick and mortar, runs is that when they have inventory, their cash is tied up in those clothes. Like they have no more money because it's all in the clothing. And they have to sell the clothing to make their cash back and to make their profit. I mean, it's like when I had all of these kind of things clicked together about business, I was like, what? Like,
Yeah.
this is crazy how it all works. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, so they have to pay for the product, then they have to pay for the employees in the building, and then they have to like keep some for themselves. I was like, oh, that's why it's buy it for one, sell it for two, or like sell it for three or whatever. I was like, I remember like that's where it started to fall into place, is going to these markets. So the first one that I went to was the Javis. Yep. And walked in, and I was just blown away. And I was also very new to luxury retail. Okay. So I was walking in, I came from buy one, get four free, and I came from the Express t-shirts are $20 and whatever, to now going around and seeing all these products, which were $500-$600 for a pair of jeans or something. And I was like, what? I think the first coat I put on was from Norwegian wool, and it was like $10,000.
Wow.
And I was like, what is happening?
Can't even fathom it.
Yeah, I was like, there's people out there to buy this, and you're just walking down this sea of people, and it's almost like a medieval bazaar. Like people are shaking like, oh, we got shirts. And,
you have the loudest, like coolest, kookiest salespeople because everybody's fighting for your attention, which is hysterical, but it's a show.
Yeah.
And
then there's a lot of brand loyalty. So you walk up to a brand that you've done a lot of business with, and they're like, oh, right this way, sit down. How's your mom? How's your dad? There's a big, there's like the nice, what do you call it? Small talk, pitter patter. Like, let's just, get to know. And then, okay, what have we got? And then they go through this whole show. Now, the brand that's they're showing, they will probably bring, let's say, 80 pieces, one-offs, different colors, different styles, and
they'll have lookbooks and other things for depth that you can look at.
So they'll be showing the retailers. Now, based on the retailers' feedback and what they buy is what that brand will put into production. There are certain things that, yes, they will always put into production, like a navy hoodie or something like that, or a blue blazer. Those will always be there. But if it's something a little bit more experiential, they'll see what retailers are going to buy. And
if you're the only person that put down that you want to order a certain jacket, when it comes to production, they may call you and say, we're not running that jacket. We're so sorry.
It happens.
Is there something else that you want? Yep. Because there's no cost value for them to go and produce it. They're not going to make their money back.
Exactly. So what we would always run into is that it kind of came in phases where we would go to the shows to see everything in person and to see everything together. Yep. And we would write up an order, but we wouldn't place it yet. So then in the next month, most of those brands would come to the store, and we would then place the order in a bit more of an intimate setting.
Interesting.
Yes. But the problem is that we're not seeing everything together. We don't remember what it was. So you're trying to make a cohesive brand over time. And then when it comes to production, we might get a call a couple months later. Hey, not enough people wanted that green jacket, so we're not running it. So then your numbers are thrown off. Your color story is thrown off.
I was going to say, you might have had that planned for a merchandised outfit in the store that's not going to work anymore. Yep.
And when we bought, we would buy with customers in mind. So we would say oh yeah, Bruce will buy this.
Yes.
This,
specific individuals, your best shoppers.
Yeah. We'll buy coats in certain sizes for certain customers. But then you also have to buy a range of sizes. So say this shirt, if I brought this shirt in, I would do like SML XL, but I would probably double up on L and XL. Right. Because it's a blue shirt, or maybe I would go double across and maybe even throw in a triple XL. Okay. But then another shirt, maybe like with this pattern, I'd say, let's do
something louder, right?
ML XL, double up on L. So I wouldn't even get a small. Right. So every single piece we would have to say, what's the quantity? What are the sizes? And we would have to keep track of all of that. And then after I went to that market in the Java Center, then I went to one of the hotels, and where the hotels are is where the super luxury brands are. And I remember walking in and seeing, and it was a totally different experience, because before it was like a medieval bazaar. This
very
one,
chaotic.
Yes.
Very chaotic.
brands had their own hotel suites, and you walk in.
You go in one appointment at a time. You get wined and dined. They've pulled up your files, so they're pulling out all the stops for you. They're trying to get,
It's all quiet. They're like, "Hey, how are you? Let's hang out." They give you honest feedback. And I was like, wow, they really like care about our success. And I remember on the drive home, I was telling him, I was like, it's cool how much they care. And he was like, they care because they need us.
Correct.
I was like, wow, it really is.
I know.
was like, but we also need them.
Correct. Because without them, you don't have a store. You have no inventory.
It's such a strong ecosystem of back and forth and who needs what and why. And I walked into one hotel room that it was a accessory line out of London, and their cufflinks were $500, $600, $900. Okay. And I was like, what? Like Joseph A. Bank cufflinks were like $13. And people
cheap.
would be like, what, $13? Yeah. And I was like looking at these cufflinks, and it just opened my mind to how vast the retail experience is and like the customer that's out there. Yep. I really had no idea up until that point because I had only been at that boutique store for a couple months, and I come from bigger retail. So my knowledge of who was out there was still pretty small. I hadn't had any big spenders yet or anything like that. So this kind of opened my mind to like, oh wow, there's a customer, and then there's something else, this bigger client, this bigger experience that people can get.
Yeah. And that's not even, and we could have a whole separate conversation about this, but that's not even mentioning the fact that men's buying patterns versus women's buying patterns are two completely different animals. But then you get into men's luxury, women's luxury. We're talking right now about, the average piece of clothing, right? Jeans, shirts, that sort of thing. Now I've had a completely different experience in the bridal market. Yeah. So that's a crazy animal in and of itself. And my first experience going to bridal market was in New York, going with my cousin to buy for her shop over in Middletown, Lustrina Girls. And she kind of gave me the rundown. And at the very first one I went to with her was, I believe it was still at the Javits. And this was like pre-COVID, but I had heard like from her and from some other colleagues that because the prices were getting so extraordinary for a booth, people started to do a lot more of the hotels because they had to get a hotel anyway. They just sprung for a nicer suite, and they would have open hours, and then they would have appointment hours, and they would try to just like work on their current customers, maybe not always soliciting new business, but really like focusing in on that like experiential element for their current clients and getting them to maybe buy more, buy deeper. And we went through the Javits and we saw a few different things there. And that was pretty cool. And then we went to like Chelsea Piers. We went to a couple different hotel rooms. We saw like a Veil Trends had a hotel suite. So that was really cool. And they like remembered Krista. They knew her bestsellers offhand. They kind of modified some things year to year to make sure they were still hitting that like target audience for that bestseller.
No, wait, sorry. So I'm trying to imagine this because for me, what I see is, a sock company, a shirt company, a jean company. Are these all just dress company after dress company after dress?
You hit it. Yeah. It's insane.
No, that's so
wedding
much
dress, wedding dress, wedding dress, wedding dress, maybe a wedding jumper, wedding dress, wedding dress, wedding dress, wedding dress. And now at least like it seems like the market is also expanding. There are also accessories, right? Veils, hair pieces, that sort of thing. But they're a little more spread. Like the gown. Now they do like little white dresses and some separates, but
this is in Chicago?
No, this was in New York. Now okay. Chicago is like become the big bridal market.
Chicago has dominated lately. New York was the big one for a number of years. The Javits for men's is actually closed down. They don't do that show anymore.
And they don't do the Javits for or Chelsea Piers for bridal market in New York anymore either.
Vegas was big, isn't anymore.
Yep. It was cold. I mean, really COVID. COVID kind of put the nail in the coffin.
And now
for that.
Chicago is the mecca.
Yes.
It's the biggest trade show center on the planet. Yep. It is wild. Yep. So it's at the Mart. Yep. And for men's, it's 3-4 days. They just extended it this past season to 4 days.
They needed it.
So it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And by Tuesday, I mean, it's a ghost town. No one's there because the retailer needs to go home and like take care of their store.
I know.
So the brands
Everybody's
are just
tapping
stuck
out,
there, like playing, Nerf football in the hallways. But it is probably twice, if not 3 times bigger than the Javits Center.
I can imagine. That's the one. So Chicago Bridal Market is the one I have not been to yet. And I'm so psyched to go. And I was actually planning on going this year, but they had to move it, unfortunately, from August to September. And September in all of the wedding arena is pretty hectic. So I couldn't make the change.
Of them. I mean, they probably didn't do it like
I'm sure they didn't do it flippantly. There was intention, but yeah,
risk.
So I couldn't do it. So maybe next year in the spring we'll see. Yeah. But that's my goal is to go and check it out. But even just going through, so now the way that New York has broken up, there are a couple different markets led by like some like umbrella groups, we'll call it. So there's like the Horizon Bridal Market, and their whole thing is like young designers on the horizon, right? So it's newer brands, smaller brands just trying to get their leg up, and it's a chance for them to show. I don't know what the pricing is like for booths. I would imagine it's a little more economical because these folks are just starting out, but it's a chance if you want to like catch somebody while they're kind of like hot and on the come ups, like that's the place to go. But it's very neat to see everybody's different interpretation. So for something like bridal, again, it's gown. Yeah. How many different variations of a gown can you make? And you'd be surprised. There's quite a few. And you have different price points. You have different, areas in which they're making these things, different fabrications, all that stuff. So it's pretty expansive when you get into the nuts and bolts of it all. It's just a wild sight.
Yeah, I think that when I go to Chicago, it is so astounding the size range of brands, because people have booths that are like 5x5, or they have booths that are like 60x40. And I mean, the big brands are Polo, Hugo Boss, Ralph Lauren.
They're almost like anchor brands for these shows,
exactly.
right?
But
like
then,
you have an anchor at a mall.
But then you have Trinidad 3, who's there. I mean, the guy's name is Trinidad Garcia, is the owner.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and he's there in his little booth, and 2 halls down is Polo.
Yep. Kind of like levels the playing, even though the spaces and the footprints are different, it kind of puts everybody on a little bit of a level playing field, because you can go see both in the same day at same, back to back times. It's crazy.
You get to make the experience for your store. So in West Hartford, we had to judge a lot of what we brought in because we were 2 miles away from West Farms Mall.
Oh, okay.
And there's certain jeans, like Page jeans.
Yeah,
they're a big one at the
jeans.
They're a big one at the trade show, and they sold a ton in all these retail locations, and we just always said no, because we're right next to a Nordstrom, we're right next to a Saks Off Fifth,
right?
We're right next to a Nordstrom, off the rack or whatever. Yeah. And it was like they're selling those jeans for $80, right. $90.
How do you compete with that?
Because they're getting a different deal than what we would get. We would get it at cost, $110. So they can sell it less than cost. Right. It makes no sense for us to even like bring this in. So it was interesting to see like even that, like not just customers, but like other stores that are in the area will make a big impact. Like who's been around,
who's popping through.
Yeah. What's the area? Being in West Hartford Center, it was very much like lifestyle. It wasn't so much business. And there's a store in Hartford, Stackpole.
Yes.
You get men's and women's.
Yep.
They're very traditional, tailored suits, dresses, a little bit more high end. But they're in downtown Hartford. They still have that business mindset type of customer. Even if those high rises are not filled with people in suits, it's still the culture of the shop. And
they're also like a legacy brand too at this point. So there's a history there with the aesthetic and what they're kind of aiming for.
And we had some suits on the wall and some sport coats on the wall, but a lot of the brands that we brought in, like the biggest seller were the shirts. Yep. People loved the shirts that we brought in, and it was all about the shirt with the pant with the jean or something like that. It was like making more of like a lifestyle vibe. And the idea of West Harvard Center being, one of the best places to dine out. It was like people would come in and be like, oh, I'm going out to dinner. I need a shirt or something. Sometimes people would literally come in a t-shirt, buy
and then
a
change,
shirt,
and then go out
to dinner. And that was the idea. They're like, oh, I'm going to Max Oyster Bar. I need a nice shirt. And they would get a nice shirt. We would iron it for them and send them out the way. But so now that I'm in the designer realm, I go to the CTDA, which is not about pushing product. It's about a brand experience. Because it's so custom, you're responsible for pushing the product. Okay. So I'll meet with fabric houses now. So rather than meeting with a brand that makes suits using Holland and Sherry fabric, I now meet with
Holland and Sherry directly. Yeah. Correct. So that's what I meant in the beginning too, when I'm talking about the people who like the level up from the trade. There's trade shows for the tradespeople. Is now the fabrics, the buttons and trims and all the other elements that kind of go into making things.
Yeah. And that it's interesting because it's so much more about the camaraderie. Sure. Because people, they get it. They're like, you can't always control it, but it's all about just, or do you feel supported? How much more can we give you? What fabrics are you working?
Like to see what's working well.
It's a much more intimate relationship in these rooms. And again, they're in the suites at the Conrad. It's a weekend. This
is in Chicago.
Yep. No, this is in New York. Sorry.
Oh, the New York?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is in New York. Chicago, those brands have booths also. Gotcha. So everybody, it's the level playing field, Chicago. Gotcha. If you sell anything, you're in the mart on the one floor. Gotcha. But in New York, it's very much like we're at the Conrad. Like, come if you want us, you know where to find us.
Yeah, you know where to find us. We'll be at the Conrad.
Yeah, and then you go in and they have like huge bottles of whiskey and coffee and the snacks and whatever.
That's a nice mix. Yeah. Whiskey, coffee. Excellent.
Oh yeah, you're all fired up and hammered, spilling on the $1,000 fabric.
They're like, sign that check for us, will you?
It's, the most beautiful part is that it inspires me to be like, I gotta push more X color or X pattern.
Interesting.
Like I get fabric is not a priority to me. Okay. Like selling the fabric on its own. And
that makes sense though. Yeah.
I'm not the type of salesperson to be like, so this fabric is 7 grams and it's the finest thing and it's
nobody knows what 7 grams means. They don't get it.
Could not bore me more.
Yeah.
And I know plenty of salespeople that's how they rock. And they're like, it will make up in a terrific jacket. Now, I'm much more of a lifestyle person. I'm like, tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you do. Oh,
you're the story guy.
Yeah, you go to Mystic. That's so awesome. Have you been to Red 36? Oh, I remember I went there sometime. Yeah. So like this fabric would be amazing because it would wear well. So it's like an hour drive there. You're sitting outside. It's cool. The jacket will keep it cool. You're eating there. You got your seafood tower and people like see themselves in that
outfit, in that fabric.
Yes.
Right. Now, do you feel like when you're doing things like that, selling like that, but then also having conversations with the fabric houses, do you feel like they're imparting, let's say, a color trend on you, or you're giving them feedback and buying based on what you see, or is it a mix of both?
So there's a 2-part answer to that. And one interesting part, which will be a prelude to my answer, is when I was going to the market in the Javits Center, we would have to buy garments and buy suits, buy sport coats, buy shirts, whatever. And blue was the dominant fabric.
Always.
And
always for you guys.
I was like, this is so frustrating. And everybody would be like, whoa, blue sells. And I'm like, blue sells because it's all you show. So it turns into this vicious cycle. Whereas now it's like, I haven't sold anything blue in a year.
I'm gonna interrupt you for a hot second to talk about bridal in that regard too, because there was an interesting conversation that I saw going on online, very similar to this, about like, is the tail wagging the dog here? Like what's coming first, right? Chicken or the egg? And it's been about plus sizing. and size inclusivity in the bridal world. And it's because a lot of these stores fall into this realm of buying smaller sample sizes. And it's because that's a lot of what they're being shown. And it's not necessarily who their customers always are. And they want to do more with it. They want to have more size inclusivity. But because they're not seeing what it looks like on a plus size model and confirming that the companies themselves are capable of creating a garment of like good style and quality and sewing and proportions and all that in plus sizing, they're buying cautiously. Yeah. And so we want more. We want to hit a better average market because the average woman is not a size 8. Yeah. And it becomes like this cycle of, well, you're only showing these things and they're telling us, well, you're only buying these things, but that's not true. Like it's everyone kind of wants to point the finger and place a little blame at this point, is what it seems like, at least as far as the bridal industry goes. So it's there is a big push. I know, my colleague Beth Chapman from White Dress by the Shore and the White Dress Society, we're, members of the Bridal Council. Like we're really trying to push this initiative that like, you don't just get to show plus sizes like one season and be like, we're done here. We've solved it, right? Yeah. This has to be a continuous conversation. It's also involving like racially diverse models. It's involving, body differences, queer couples. It kind of spans the gamut and who you are trying to talk to and who your target audience is. But everybody gets married. Everybody buys clothes. Yeah. It's just kind of wild.
Yeah. And Lustrina, your cousin, just posted on Instagram about this is what inclusivity
looks like. Yeah.
And the comments were all brides who have gotten married and they're like, this is why I chose you, because you have this, because it's available, because it's not like we offer plus sizes in this special section over here. It's like, this is everybody. Yes.
It's not othering.
Here are our bridal gowns, and they go from size this to size that.
Yep. The way it should be.
End of story. Not like, oh, you chose to live this way. I guess we'll break out the big one. And like, it's just like, it's like, why is that? Why does that need to be such a big deal? Just make it in a bigger size. Just like up it a little bit.
Yeah. So that's kind of the latest in the bridal market. Yeah. That we have to get all.
So for men's, it was much more about color. And it was just like what sells, and fabric. It kind of like stretch has obviously been big lately. Stretch has gotten to the point of knit, and knit tops do not look good on anybody with curves. So for men, if you got some man boob going on, a knit top is gonna really
rides you. And
so my boss at the time was smaller and I was bigger, and so I would be like, I would never wear that shirt. Why would we buy it? You will not sell that shirt in anything above a large.
Right.
And there were a lot of shirts that we just said no to because of that, because it was just like,
you're limited on your sizes for what you know is going to be aesthetically good for certain people or what they're going to feel good in.
Exactly.
Yep.
So, and then what it came down to in terms of color was when we're buying ready to wear clothing, we were very limited on grays, blues. Occasionally, they would indulge me and we'd buy a purple or a green or something. And every single season, those were the first to sell out. They flew off the rack. But it was still such a gamble. It's like, okay, yes, you
get a little nervous. Is this going to be the last time that this was the last time it sells? And did I just screw myself?
Are they selling because of scarcity? Are they selling because in a sea of blue, there's the one green? If it was all green, would they sell? Like,
yeah. If green became the trend, then is it moot point for the person who wants to be an individual? It's a very tricky game. I do not envy people who have the job of a buyer. It is very tricky, high stakes.
It is. It was a orchestra. I mean, a true you think about those black and white movies from like the 50s when the divers are coming out like all like a sunflower, and it's this whole
like synchronized swimming. Is this what you're talking about?
Like that's what
You're out of
buying
control.
that's what buying is like. It's like you have to keep control over so many things, and they all have to happen at the same time and at the same this. And like we would get our product in at we'd get our deliveries at the store all on, if it's for the fall season, we would get at the beginning of August.
Right.
We would have to keep it all downstairs hidden because that's what we have for the whole season. What's in these boxes
Interesting that you guys did that.
Have to last us till January.
See, in my like smaller retail experience was that, you have lead times, right? So we could go be shopping for the following season, that season prior, and maybe some stuff would come fast, maybe it wouldn't. Yeah. And it was like, if it was the dead of winter, we're trying to push spring and summer because we're going ahead, but we bought it prior. So we're living on a prayer that what we picked will still be in vogue in the coming season. Yeah. It's very tricky.
Yeah, and we didn't want it to look stale.
Stale, yes.
Because by the time, if I put it out in August, by the time October rolls around,
everyone's bored. Especially
like,
in a smaller boutique,
right?
Because you don't have
this thing again and again. Because people come like every single week, and it's like I've seen this thing. Clearly, if it's still here, nobody wants it. Yep. So that was always crazy to me. But now, when I'm making custom pieces, one-off, it's very much like here's all the colors, here's all the things,
all the possibilities.
I think, let's see.
It's a much more sustainable way of shopping and living and buying, don't you think? To just buy the one thing that you need when you need it.
Absolutely.
In the color that you want
Buying with intention.
Oh, yes. Fascinating.
Yes. I think I sold the navy suit back in December.
Okay.
I think that was the last navy suit I sold. Okay. Every single thing has been a burgundy suit.
Yeah, I've seen you with green, tan.
Burgundy, green, tan, lots of sport coats, window panes. For my friend Rachel Gerard, she bought she decided, which I loved, how about, since this is going to be an investment piece, when a customer decides to sit down and do custom for the first time, oftentimes their first inclination is like, let's just run wild. It's custom. Let's go crazy.
Oh, are you talking about me?
Yeah. Well, yours was perfect because it was so on brand. But some people are like, let me just get like a sport coat that's all crazy. Yeah. And then they get this thing that it's like,
it's too unique. They can't get a lot of wear out of it.
So I was like, well, that's a possibility. But for you, why don't we just upgrade a staple? Like,
right. What do you wear a lot?
Yes.
What's kind of falling apart?
What are you going to get 20 years out of?
Yep.
Let's do that. So we're doing a double-breasted black blazer.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be awesome.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah. So I'm shocked because I have always spent my time talking people out of buying black.
Okay.
One of the most
and now you're trying to like pitch things in a very smart way, but you're also a listening person, right? Like that's the difference between, I think, a smaller retail experience where you have hands-on help versus a big box store that's a little bit more faceless, is that you in particular, your whole thing is about people's story and their lifestyle, right? So you're honing in on what actually makes the most sense for them. So when you and I sat together, for example, I'm not getting a black blazer from you. Yeah. I'm getting pink with white tipping because that makes the most sense for me. And I have worn that thing so many times already. And it's been maybe a year? Yeah. Maybe a year. Yeah. And I wear it as separates and I wear it as the suit and I do all the things. And it has so much cost value for me. And it's mine.
Yeah.
Nobody ever gets it.
Exactly. It's got your name in it.
It's got my name in it.
Yep. Yeah. And for me, I think, well, for the black suit, I have often heard people say, they'll come to me and say, well, okay, I'll get a black suit because everybody needs a black suit. I'm like, for what?
For a funeral, Matt. Duh.
What? And they're like, yeah, for funerals. I was like,
for a wedding and funeral.
How many are you going to? And they're like, one a year. I'm like, then what are you doing?
Right.
Get like a charcoal suit. because that you can dress it up, you can dress it down. A black suit is so just,
It's very rigid. Yeah.
so
It's one-dimensional.
rough. Yeah, you're just so intense. I was like, a charcoal suit can be formal, it can be fun, it can, you've got so much more mobility, and yet for what it is, it will never be mistaken as trying to be something that it's not. But a
Fair.
black suit, if you try to casual down a black suit,
Yeah, that's true.
it's gonna look ridiculous.
Looks weird. Yeah.
But if you try to casual down, like if you put a floral shirt under a charcoal suit, people would be like, all right, nice. But if you did that in black, it'd be like, did you thrift that? Like, it's just like,
What's wrong with thrifting, Matt?
You're looking like Chris Pine these days. Like, yeah. Oh my gosh. Did you see that on Instagram?
I missed it. No.
He looks like a maniac.
Oh,
Chris
okay,
Pine.
fun.
Chris Pine went to some event with jorts to about here, a T-shirt that had something to do with something, and a tan blazer with hair down to his shoulders and a huge gray beard and like a scrunchie in his hair. And he was just like, I've just reached the point of not giving a fuck. And it was like, all right. Somebody said, this is what happens after Harry Styles spits on you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. All right. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
but also, listen, I teeter between like, do I yuck on someone's yum or like, but also why? I have so many questions.
Yeah, I know. It definitely was a choice.
It was a choice.
Yeah, but I love sitting back to the market now that I'm sitting with the fabric houses themselves.
Yep.
And I'm asking them, like, what are you producing more of? And their response right now is, we cannot produce luxury fabrics fast enough.
Really?
The higher end, the
I think
more
most
expensive,
people would be surprised to hear that.
the higher end, the most expensive is flying off the racks. People are like, what is it? $5,000? I want it. $10,000?
Is it because of exclusivity? Is it because of like trying to separate from like all the mass of like bullshit out there?
So it's two things. It's very representative of our socioeconomic status, our socioeconomic stance as a country right now.
Yeah.
There's no more middle class.
Right. So you're either high or you're on that lower end.
Which is why you're seeing like Amazon and like Walmart and dollar stores kind of blowing up and like really cheap stuff, Shein, Temu, all that. But then you're also seeing these luxury brands explode because those are the two
Very
markets.
selectively though, because there are quite a few luxury houses that have been like really on the downturn. That's a whole other conversation as to why specific houses are down. But I'm intrigued by the fact that luxury in a one-on-one or a custom capacity, that makes sense to me because again, people aren't looking for like the Gucci with the G's all over it anymore. Like, do you know what I mean? There's kind of this step back. I know everyone's so sick of the term quiet luxury. I'm even sick of it, but I do like the aesthetic. Like when you just look rich, like you can tell that fabric is something that's not from Temu. You just know. You're like, ooh, okay, that's you don't have to say it everywhere. It just is on you.
It just looks just money. But then there's one fabric house called Skabal that I buy from, and they have a book of fabrics called Diamond Chip. And it literally has diamonds woven into it. Yeah. And you can get
absurd.
You can get like the eye thing that like looks at the diamonds. Yeah. I was like, if you like walk up against glass, does it like scratch off? Like, are you cutting people as you're like touching them? It's just like,
does it exfoliate you from the inside?
Yeah, you like take it off your raw and like wearing a cheese grater. Like,
oh Jesus.
Well, there's fabric houses like Dorme has their 24 karat where it's threaded with gold, literal gold.
Okay. If you want to be different, cool.
All these things, because there's only so many like variations of, the water and how it's treated and how it's dyed. They're getting to a point where
nothing's new anymore.
It's got to be, okay, there's diamonds in it. Okay, there's gold in it.
It's got to be so absurd.
Yeah, there's one fabric
ridiculous.
That is stab proof. They wove it with Teflon.
Come on.
Yeah. And they told me, pretty interesting, they told me that the biggest market is like international business people. You know, they go to Honduras, they go to these places, and yeah, they've got their stab-proof suits. You know, the ExxonMobil execs.
Jesus.
You know, yeah,
Oh my God.
they're buying their Teflon suits.
Whatever floats
Yeah,
your boat.
yeah. But the markets are really great for the buyer and seller relationship. That's kind of what it's all about.
That's where it all comes together.
Yes.
Yep.
There's a big one in Italy called Pitti Uomo.
I've been there.
Oh, really?
I went
Are
there
you
when I lived in
serious?
Italy. Yep. You would
What?
die.
Yeah.
So like the Hugo Boss like had its own, like you walked in and it was like a cave and it was dark and it was all their next collection. It was unbelievable.
See, so here's a good example of like, I would never go there for the attention of my business, Bards being everything made in America. But it's a
could
massive,
go there for the
yes,
experience.
I could go there for fun. I want to go there for fun.
It's insane.
It's
insane.
How long ago did you go?
It was 2005.
Oh, wow.
Almost 20 years ago.
Oh my God. So it's totally
Yeah.
changed.
Oh, it's got to be.
Now it's like,
Assuredly.
now everybody hates it because it's the biggest influencer event.
Ugh,
it's
fair.
where all
Okay,
these
that makes
influencers
sense.
go, and they all wear their coats over themselves, like they don't put their arms to the
Yeah,
clothes.
that LA look over
they
your
just like wear
shoulders.
it,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
take a picture against that wall, and it's like, all right, that's
Eye
cool
roll.
that you're there, but you're not helping the business, you know, at all. Like you go there in your Hockerty suit that costs $199, and you're standing next to some serious brands and some serious people trying to do money, and also some other brands that are like trying to make ends meet. And you don't have a store, you don't have anything.
Right. You're not helping.
Yeah, and you're only attracting other influencers who, again, are not selling. So the influencer thing is a whole nother hot topic.
We have a lot of like topics for episodes now.
Yeah, oh my gosh. But for the listener, the big takeaway on like the market is really to understand the dynamic of what goes into this. It's not just a box just shows up and this is what they're selling. It's a whole dialogue. It takes months. And this is a reflection of runway fashion.
I was going to say, I'm going to bring up the Devil Wears Prada quote again.
Yes.
It's a very specific shade of cerulean.
Yes, I think this needs a belt here.
Trickles
Like,
down.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trickle down into your bargain bin.
Yeah. Oh, that clip is just so perfect.
But it's true. It
is.
starts at the top, or it starts in like couture houses, and then people want some piece of that. Yeah. It's aspirational, it's inspirational, and as it goes in, maybe from the high end couturiers into the luxury market, then down into the mid market, and then down into the mass market, it all came from somewhere. And these trade shows where they're kind of like pushing creativity, pushing innovation, dying to be different, making diamond fabrics, like that's the attention that people are looking for individuality and longing for something that's outside the regular scope of things.
Yeah, there's a manufacturer in Tennessee, I want to say, and they're housed in Tennessee, but they make everything overseas. Okay. At the Chicago show 10 years ago, they were one of the biggest sponsors. They had a car there. Their booth was like 200 feet by 200 feet, massive. Okay. This year, they didn't even show up. Didn't even tell anybody. They just pulled out last minute. And so you can see at these trade shows who's doing well and who's not doing well. You can get a pulse of the industry, which is really cool.
It's a very intriguing angle that I hadn't quite thought of. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, wow, look at the size of their booth. The size does matter in some places. Because there are places where it's like, wow, that booth, because these booths are like $10,000.
Very expensive.
For 5 feet. Yep. So if your booth is literally 40 feet, it's like you just
spent some money and you've got your custom furniture and you've got all the things that make a brand, right? Yeah. A look and an aesthetic.
This is your showing. This is your huge come out. This is who we are.
And really, this is like, the way to kind of think of it for the listener is when you see a runway show, of these higher end luxury houses. This is like a runway show. You're not having models actually walking, but you might have a model in your booth. You have everything out for people to see, and it's the chance for everyone to go see everything all in one place.
Yeah, and to compare in real time, which is very nice, because you can go up to Holland and Sherry, and then you can go to Dormay, and then you can go to all these different fabric houses.
And then circle back to the one you love the most, or several.
Yep.
And buy from them.
Yep. And there's plenty, like my manufacturer that I use in Rochester, they're right across the hall, literally 5 feet from one of the biggest factories in China. And it's like somebody can literally sit there, and we have plenty of retailers who will sit at every single manufacturer, and it's like, wow, you're looking at these people. So even for the brands, they start to get a sense of their store's loyalty. Okay. So the manufacturer can be like, oh, well, store X is also sitting with them, and also sitting with them, and also sitting with them.
Might get some feelings.
Yeah, there's definitely, it gets
interesting,
a little dicey because they put everybody
together.
All the manufacturers are in one section. All the ready-to-wear accessories, all the ready-to-wear pants,
it's all grouped.
Shoes. They group all the Italian people. They group all the.
Yep.
It's funny because
I remember being in the Javits, you could see the things hanging overhead, made in America over here, made in Italy over there. And you could go if you were specifically looking to shop by those
the Italians
parameters.
Have a huge presence.
I mean,
huge presence at these
as an
these
Italian
shows.
gal.
Now, to wrap up, what are some questions or feelings you think that you would want to address looking at the market? Like if you were a new person who pretend I'm a new person, you wanted to explain in like an elevator pitch why a market is important.
Why it's important? I think it's like we talked about earlier, it's bridging that gap. It's like that level of communication one-on-one between your store or your company and the product, the people pitching the product. So there's that chance for dialogue back and forth. There's a chance to give honest feedback. There's a chance to also, in a way, get a little note on your competitors even. Yeah. You can find out what other, what's the most popular thing? What did this one buy? What did that one buy? And you can either lean into it, lean out of it, make your decisions very intelligently based on a pulse that you're getting from being at a trade show.
Yeah, that is a huge point that I don't think a lot of people would understand. My biggest takeaway is still something that sits with me: the amount of product shown at these places. It is insane.
It is insane. It is almost like to a sad degree.
Yeah, like it really did show me. It's like, wow, okay, so we saw 50 shirt brands. Every single one showed 200 shirts. We bought maybe 5 or 6 from 4 of those companies. Yep. So think about all the shirts that are still out there getting made, or the shirts that they put into production that they decided not to. So all the sample sizes. These shows, there's a lot of waste at them, and it really does kind of harken back to, we need to change this model of retail. Like retail, buying things is as old as human beings. Yes. Like it's thousands of years old. Yeah. Just like you have thing, I have thing. Let's
trade, exchange money or exchange products.
For whatever it is. Like that, it has not changed. Since the dawn of man. Now with the internet, with automation, we have to get to a place where it's like, here's a PDF of these shirts and pick whatever you want and then we'll make it. Or maybe we make 10 or 20 and that's it, and then you make them from there.
Well, and that's a perfect, just to end on a high note with your business, honestly. I'm gonna pitch you, because that's where you get to see, like, I know what a men's shirt looks like. I mean, we can hem and haw over the details of what the collar shape is and whatever, and you can show me pictures even, and I can get it. I will say there are some garments where you need to see things. I think there's still a space for it, right? But when you're in a realm like yours, where I know what this shirt looks like, or I know that this shirt is my favorite. I just want you to copycat it and I want a new fabric. It's so effective. It's so eco-friendly to be able to flip through a book of swatches and go, oh, okay. Or to your point, if it's in digital, look at it on a rendering on a computer. Yeah. It's so valuable and so like friendly to the planet in so many ways.
Yeah, slowing it down. You don't need everything tomorrow. You don't need everything one click buy. You don't everything next day ship. Slow it down. Buy with intention. Buy with purpose. Buy less. Buy better. Yep. These are all the things, common themes we're going to keep harkening on. But thank you very much for listening to this episode of The Fabric of America.